Welcome to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. I'm your host, Earnest James, the number one girl dad. And I believe that the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships that a young lady can have. And so my mission with this podcast is to promote and share the voices of girl dads to the world. So thank you guys once again for tuning in to the very first episode of the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. Again, I am your host, Earnest James. And if my voice sounds a little familiar, or you're looking at it on YouTube and my face looking a little bit familiar also, is because I do have another podcast called The Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, which I started over a year ago, and we've almost 100 episodes in, which is a great podcast, which is where the birth of the idea for the Girl Dad Discussions podcast came from. So again, this is our number one. This is our very first episode, and so it's our introduction. So welcome again to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. A little bit about myself for those of you who don't know, who have not tuned in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast before to hear my story. I'll give it to you here. Even though, make sure you do go check out the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, because it's awesome. But so my name is Earnest James. I am a father for one. I am a podcaster. I'm a speaker. I'm an author. And I started the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast a little bit over a year or so ago. And one of the reasons why I started it, because I was asked to be a guest on several other podcasts or go on other podcasts as a guest. And I was asked to come on to talk about my page that I had on Instagram called Friends to Fatherless Daughters. And I started that page because I was looking back over my life because of some situations I was going through, but I realized that every woman that I had ever dated had been a fatherless daughter. And so with that in mind, I realized that either I'm attracted to them or they're attracted to me for some reason. But for whatever reason, we keep on running into each other, right? And so I wanted to do something to help that community. And so I became a girl dad advocate, and a fatherless daughter advocate, should I say. And I started the Friends to Fatherless Daughters page on Instagram, where I just shared my viewpoints on fatherless daughters, giving advice and information, and share my viewpoint from a man, from a father, by being a girl dad myself, and from the experiences I had as being in relationships with fatherless daughters. So I put all of that together and put out the platform, the Friend to Fatherless Daughters. And as I started being noticed on Instagram for that platform, I started being asked to be on several podcast as a guest to talk about fatherless daughters, and which I did. And one such podcast, afterwards, the host and I, we ended up going out for lunch. And in the midst of the conversation, he said, "You should have your own podcast." And fast forward a little bit, the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast was born, which is a podcast that deals with healing, right? To help us to heal in every area of our lives. So I talk about the things that I've been through and that I've been able to overcome. And my guests talk about the things that they've been able to overcome, because like I always say, I haven't been through everything, and neither do I want to go through everything. And so for the things that I haven't been through, I bring on guests, speakers and coaches, authors, who can talk about the situations that they've been through, that they've lived through, that they've overcome, and then just give their information and their tips, and that we can learn from their knowledge and wisdom from their experiences to get over the things that we need healing in. And so that was the premise of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. And so whenever I will have a girl dad on, I would ask them two questions, right? So if my guest is a guy and he's a father of a daughter, I would always ask two questions. What does it mean to you to be a girl dad? And what is something that your daughter has taught you? And I would get different answers to those questions, but I would always ask those two questions of every girl dad that came on, because again, I'm a girl dad myself, also a fatherless daughter advocate, and so I want to push the message that there are good dads out here that are taking care of their children and definitely taking care of our daughters. And so to be able to put that message out there and hear from the heart of a father for how much his daughter means to him, and just experiences that he have had with his daughter, and so that's what I started doing. And so whenever I would make clips for the podcast, I would take them segments and I'll clip it and I would name it the Girl Dad Discussions. And so after doing so many of them and really thinking about it and watching them myself, I said, man, I think that this is something that the world needs to hear. Needs to hear more of, just fathers talking about their daughters and their relationships, and how much they love their daughters, and things of that nature. And so fast forward, and here we are to the very first episode, the introduction episode of the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Earnest James, #1 girl dad, right? So, man, so what I want to do on this podcast, and what I am going to do, is I'm going to have girl dads on, and maybe even some ladies who will talk about their experiences of maybe not growing up with their fathers, or even their experience with their fathers. I think that'd be definitely that'd be great for us to have and for us to talk about. So that's one of the things I'm gonna do. Also, I wrote an ebook called The Core Four, and I want you guys to go to get your copy of The Core Four, which is the 4 core values that every daughter should receive from her father. And you can get that ebook at ebooksbyejames.com. Again, I am an author, and that's where I sell my ebooks at. Made it very simple so everybody can remember. ebooksbyejames.com. But I want you to go get your copy of the Core Four values that every daughter should receive from her father, because one of the segments that we're going to have when we're talking to our guests is, talking about the Core Four values, which value they believe is not more important, but which means the most to them. And then also I'll have them be able to add, if you could add a fifth core, what would that be? And so will be the one second section. The first section will be interviewing the guests and them talking about their experience as a father or a girl dad. And then we'll talk about the 4 core, and possibly if they could add a fifth one, which will be the 5th core, what would that look like? And then also we're going to go into looking into some articles, talking over some articles that talk about being a girl dad, that encourages being a girl dads, and having discussion of some of the articles from those magazines. And so that's the premise, right? That's the premise, just to be able to have some good conversations with some girl dads, or some daughters who talk about their relationship with their fathers. I think that's going to be awesome, man. So I'm really excited about what we're going to do with this podcast. And man, I just think it's going to be amazing, and I'm really looking forward to the guests. I already have a couple guests in mind who I'm going to have on as a guest, including my own daughter. Again, with me being the host of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, one of the episodes that I did was an episode with me and my daughter, and that's still today is one of the highest viewed and listened to episodes that I have of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. And so it's only fitting, as me being a girl dad and her being my little girl, even though she's not a little girl no more. At the time of recording this, she's going to be 20. So she is nice and grown and doing her own thing. But I think it's only fitting that I have her be one of the first guests that we have on the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. So that being said, again, my name is Earnest James. I am your host, #1 girl dad, And I really look forward to going on this journey with you guys, with the guests that I'm going to have on, the dads and the daughters, and to be able to just talk about how important that relationship is with the father and daughter relationship. And so, what I'm going to do now is just play out some of the clips from the A Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, which was the clips that I made of the girl dads talking about their daughters. And so I just want to play that for you guys, and then this will be kind of the end of the introduction of the podcast. And then the next time I come on, it will be with the it'll be with the full episodes, right? And so I just want to, let you guys, give you guys that, let you guys see that, hear that. And without further ado, here's our clips from the girl dad discussions from the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. So listen up. Being a girl dad has changed you for the better, because I'm sure it's for the better.
Yeah, man. It's like, as far like, how was that experience? I don't have nothing else to compare it to. So I mean, in that regard, like it's amazing. Like, it's awesome. Like, it's crazy watching someone like literally grow before your eyes, and like you see them like start to pick up on things and start to learn things and like become like a little human. And then they get a little bit older and it's like, okay, like you almost like a full human. Like, you know what I mean? Like my daughter, she was just like, she's talking about stethoscopes and things like that. And I'm like, how do you know what a stethoscope is? And she's like, oh, like, we learned it at school. And I'm like, what are y'all teaching? But no, I mean, and so you see them becoming like a whole person. And it's
with my daughters, right? It's like, it's the most fulfilling thing in the world, right? Because they have an amazing relationship with their mother, but like there's just a certain way they look at me, or the way they like speak, right? Or just like how you come in the room, they run and jump on you, throw their arms around you. Like, there's nothing like it in the world. But as far as I'm a brother to 4 sisters. I have a mother and a stepmother. Like, grandmothers, like bunch of women in my life. And so the way that I am around women hasn't changed because of my daughters, right? Because I've kind of always been sensitive to that, always been really respectful. I think it definitely forces me to be a little softer. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a soft dude in any stretch of the way, but like I'm very like caring and loving with my daughters.
It was just something about her being born. And when she was born, so we can start out with, I'm a person who identifies as a person in recovery from substance abuse and alcoholism. And when she was born, I was not yet in recovery. But when she was born, and the look in her eye that let me know, like, oh, like you're looking for something. You're looking for something to be able to support you in stability and a foundation. You're looking for something that I don't possess. I think that realization broke my heart enough that it was a big reason that I got pushed over to the edge and was like, okay, we got to do something different. We gotta live differently. We gotta something else out. So when you talk about like how has it changed my life, I think that it's like the biggest change that being a girl dad has been in my life. Like, she was a catalyst, one of the biggest pieces of the catalyst that made me kind of like change my lifestyle for real.
Having her made me change how I looked at life and how I view life, because it's like, now I got a daughter, and what do I want my daughter to think of me, or how do I want my daughter to look at me, or daughters to look at me? And for both of them, they both taught me perseverance and consistency, because it hasn't been great while me and their moms have tried to provide the best for them. We've struggled and we've had struggles. And so to watch them still love us unconditionally, still show up and represent not just themselves, but represent the family name, represent me, represent their mothers. It's been phenomenal to watch them and to see them as women now.
And sometimes we have to do that to mend those bridges, and not only to heal ourselves, but to heal our children, man. Because sometimes that void, especially like myself, I grew up with my mom and my dad, so I don't know what it feels like to not have your dad in the house. You know, so even with that experience with my daughter, she's living an experience that I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Her mom, on the other hand, grew up without her father in the house. So her and her mom, you know, can kind of identify with that, but I can't, because my dad and my mom was always there. You know, so I have to be, you know, diligent when talking to her and making sure that she knows that, you know, despite whatever happened and you know, my shortcomings or whatever, you know, I love her, and you know, my apology for not being there as much as I would like to.
I had literally no idea what to do with daughters. And so I had to learn how to do the things that interested them. So I got good at having tea parties and painting fingernails, and I can braid hair 3 different ways. And I once spent a few weeks at I was actually helping teach a Duke tip class over the summer when my girls were little. So I was gone for about 3 weeks. And so I spent part of those 3 weeks learning how to salsa dance, so that when I came home, I could teach my daughters how to dance with their dad, right? Or how to dance a little bit at. Now, first of all, I'm terrible at dancing of any kind, especially salsa dancing. But when your kids are like 5 and 7, they don't know that. They just want to dance with daddy when the music's on.
Right.
So they didn't know that I was terrible at it, or that what we were doing was nowhere near actual salsa dancing. They just, we get to dance with dad, right? And so what they taught me is how to be gentle, and that being gentle is okay. Being gentle doesn't mean weak.
Just so to let the daughters know, you know, how much they affect us, you know, how much they do to us, how much they change us, because oftentimes, you know, or sometimes we don't say it as much as we should. You know,
Absolutely.
like you said earlier, we think we know everything, but we don't know everything when it comes to women. So we had that same thing with our wives, or even our daughters. You know, sometimes we don't say I love you enough, or we don't say I appreciate you enough. You know, and especially getting into love languages and all of that. When you learn that, learn your daughter's love language, and you know, those words of affirmation may be what she needs to hear. So we have to be more intentional about, you know, speaking them into our life. So I always love to have, you know, for the dads to give their experiences with their daughters.
She helps me become more well-rounded, because I have to look at things from her point of view and what she's facing, because boys and girls are not only different physically, but also emotionally and developmentally. As a teacher, I see that a little bit, but once the teaching day is done, I go home and I don't see those, you know, tween or teen girls I'm teaching. I live with one. So that is a whole new experience. And I think along the lines of your second question, she has taught me to be more patient, where I can talk one way to the boys. It doesn't work so well with her. And with that, I have to, you know, I have to be more patient and more aware of things. And so, but every kid's different. So I can't say, oh, if you're a dad of girls, you'll always be like this. But, you know, that's the way Anna is. And she's made me a better person. I'll always be thankful for her because of that.
Yeah, all right, no problem. Well, I mean, to be a girl dad is to definitely be in touch with your feminine side, to learn how to care and be the man that your daughter is inspired by, be the man that you would want your daughter to be with, to set an example of how a man treats a woman. That's kind of what it means to be a girl dad to me. And some things that my girls taught me, because I have 3 girls, right? And so some of the things that my girls taught me is that it's okay to not be so serious. You know, it's all right to play around, you know, to have just conversation about nothing, you know, just have a good time and enjoy their presence. So I love it.
What it feels like to be a girl dad is it's amazing, right? But it's stressful at times, because I got a girl that's a teenager, bro. And whew, like yo, like it's just like she all over the place, man. It's like, you know, the makeup and the girls and, you know, wanting to do this and wanting to do that and have to be over here and have to be over there and just all of the, you know, various activities and extracurricular activities and, you know, all her friends and all of those different things, man. And, you know, she's saying she didn't have drama at school, like just all of those little things, man. And it's been, you know, it's been an amazing experience. It really has. And so I'm extremely grateful to be a girl dad. And I'm honored to be a father. So
What it means to me to be a girl dad is just it gives you one of the greatest responsibilities on this earth. You get to be a true influence in showing a woman how to be a woman, what she needs from a man in order to become whole at any point in time in her life. You are that first example. You are that blueprint of who she will choose to marry or, you know, become one with once she departs your house. So I think it's one of the greatest gifts that you can ever have as being a father. So that's what that means to me. And what my daughter has taught me, she taught me so many things, man. That's my sugar mama. That's what I call her because she runs the house. But two things she taught me is patience and compassion, you know, because I have 3 boys and I'm able to be stern and hard with them, and but also fair, caring and loving as well. But she taught me how to be patient when it comes down to the other things that I didn't know that a woman needs or a female needs. Also the compassion as far as dealing with that. You know, with your boys, you can be a little, you know, harder, but with, you know, my girl, I had to tone it down a bit. And then she just, you know, she spoiled rotten, man. I'm gonna just say that off top. Because I want to give her the world. I want to show her what she can have once she departs my house, once she leaves my household.
All right, all right. And there you have it. There you have it.
150
Hold on.
at 0% interest on any business or investment that you want. That's right. Quickly and
Hold on. Okay, I'm still learning. So there you have it, guys. That was just our clips from the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, the clips of our girl dad discussions that I will have with the girl dads when they will come on, which gave me the idea to start this podcast, which is the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. And so again, man, this is the very first episode. I'm so excited to see what we're able to do with this platform. We're having other girl dads on. We're having daughters come on and talk about their relationships with their fathers, and I just think it's going to be amazing. And so, you know, again, thank you guys for tuning in to the very first episode of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, right? And so again, make sure you guys go and get your copy of the Core 4, which is the core 4 values that every daughter should get from her father, which is written by me. And you can find it at ebooksbyejames.com. That is ebooksbyejames.com. Make sure you guys go and pick that up, right? And also check out the other ebooks that I have available, even an ebook that tells you how to start your own podcast like this one. So, you know, go to ebooksbyejames.com and check that out. Also, make sure that you guys check out our sister podcast, which is the, should I say, probably more so the father podcast, because that was the first one, and then this one came after that one, whatever. Anyway, but our sister podcast, father podcast, whichever one you want to call it, the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where we talk about, well, my guest and I discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our life. That's what we deal with the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. And so make sure you guys are checking that out. Yeah. So we look forward to, you know, just seeing where this takes us, right? Seeing where we go with this episode, not with this episode, but with this podcast, seeing where we go, seeing what we can do with it. I'm really excited about it, and just hope that you guys enjoy it and take this ride with me, right? And so again, this is Earnest James. This is the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, very first episode, where our mission is to promote the daddy-daughter or the girl-dad relationship, and by giving voices of our girl dads, taking the voices of our girl dads to the world. I'll get it together. This is the first episode. We're just trying to figure it out. We're still working out the kinks. So again, thank you guys for joining me. Until next week, you guys be blessed. All right. Peace out.